Forget the millions of migrants who have crossed the southern border illegally. A new report shows the Biden administration has flown hundreds of thousands of migrants from foreign countries directly into the U.S. on flights using an app. In fact, the Center for Immigration Studies found last year, from January 2023 to December 2023, at least 320,000 illegal immigrants were allowed to fly into the U.S. from their home countries through a controversial program of the Biden administration using the Customs and Border Patrol app, the CBP-1 app that was created to let migrants apply for parole into the U.S. The Center for Immigration Studies sued to get information through the Freedom of Information Act and finally released it yesterday. The report states, quote, "The program at the center of the Freedom of Information Act litigation is perhaps the most enigmatic and least known of the Biden administration's uses of the CBP-1 cell phone scheduling app, even though it is responsible for almost invisibly importing by air 320,000 aliens with no legal right to enter the United States since it got underway in late 2022. Under these legally dubious parole programs, aliens who cannot legally enter the country use the CBP-1 app to apply for travel authorization and temporary humanitarian release from those airports. The parole program allows for 2-year periods of legal status during which adults are eligible for work authorization. Joining us now to discuss is former Acting Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection and Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Mark Morgan. Good morning to you. Now, this report is stunning. Hundreds of
Hi guys, if you voted for Biden, this is what you get. I don't feel sorry for you anymore. I honestly don't. I could care less about how you're feeling. I could care less about how much you're hurting under his stupid economy. I don't give a damn. I honestly don't care about your feelings no more. Because 320,000 people flew into the country. Flew in. Unfreaking believable. Unfreaking believable. And you have not heard a beep from anybody. Not in mainstream media. This is this is NBC Montana. NBC Montana, right? It came out like a few days ago. Mainstream media has not reported on this.
Thousands of illegal immigrants flown into 43 different airports, again, from January through December 2023. And Mark, to be clear, migrants have been flown to their final destination after arriving here in the U.S., especially at the border. These unaccompanied children, that's not a secret. And you said we've known about the CBP-1 app. However, Americans might be surprised to learn one of the uses of this new CBP-1 app was to fly migrants into the U.S. on commercial passenger flights. So we're talking about over Mexico, over the border. What?
Paid vacation, baby. Paid vacation. These illegals came into the country. They probably went to the final destination of their choosing, which could be New York, could be Chicago, could be a liberal state with sanctuary status that would give them thousands of dollars worth of taxpayers' money. Who's radical now?
What's your reaction to this?
Yeah, look, I'm glad CIS once again, great reporting to confirm a lot of what we have already known, Jen, like you said. It's really unconscionable, but this is the shell game we've been talking about. This is what they've done, this administration. They've made a deal with migrants from all over the world that said, hey, if you refrain from illegally entered along our southern border in between the ports of entry, what we'll do is we'll let you fill out a couple of lines of paperwork online, and we'll actually let you fly in to 43 different airports in the United States where we'll process and release you this way. So it's absolutely to cover up bad political optics. It's try to reduce that optics from those illegally entering. And this is an absolutely abuse of their authority and parole. And keep in mind, this is why we've seen from 2020 to 2023, the average was about 240,000 come to our ports of entry in 2020. In 23, that was 1.1 million, Jan, coming to our airports. That's a 370% increase.
But are these migrants, they aren't coming to a point of entry. They're actually coming from their home countries, right?
Correct. They're coming from their home countries.
Oh my God. So let me break this down to you guys for a minute. A bunch of people smarted up. They use the app while sitting at home, sipping on their latte, sipping on their pina colada, sipping on their little wine, smoking their cigars, phone in hand. Hey, let's go to America. It's free. They'll buy us tickets. They'll pay for our trip. I don't have to spend a dime. I don't even have to go through Mexico or fear of anything. Book. All right, we'll fly next week. Let's go. Let's go to America.
They're able to get on a plane after filling out a couple of the lines on the CBP One app, fly themselves to a port of entry, an airport, basically anywhere in the United States. Right now, what this report said is they're flying them to 43 airports. Right. That's information that we didn't have before.
We did not have that information before. And what I found interesting about this report is that the administration would not reveal also where these 320,000 migrants came from, nor would they disclose which U.S. airports they were flown to. In fact, in the lawsuit, it actually states this, that the locations were not disclosed due to fear bad actors would inflict harm on public safety or the information would create law enforcement vulnerabilities. What do you make of that? Why would we have a program that is so shrouded in secrecy with such concern of grave consequences?
Well, this is how Democrats function. You have to realize the secrecy is not to show their hypocrisy. Okay? This is for them not to show their hypocrisy. This is, I want to pull my hair out because, man, oh man, oh man. These people are evil. Pure evil. When I say they hate America, this is exactly it. This is exactly it. Over 7 million illegal immigrants have crossed into the country. 7 million, over 7 million. Not to count the previous illegal immigrants that were already in the country. They will go to hell and back to push their dumb radical policies of no voter IDs. They will go to hell and back. They will kill anybody in their way to pass this policy. If you go against no voter ID policy, I have no doubt they will kill you. They will Clinton your ass very quick. Now, they are flying people in, okay? Oh, just buy a plane ticket. Come in. We'll probably refund you for the plane ticket. But they are hiding where they are landing. Why are you hiding that? Because of backlash? ICE needs to know where these illegals are. But they're not cooperating with ICE either. If these illegals are arrested, just like in New York, they are released into the general public again with a court date. ICE is not informed of their felonies that they've done. We just saw a few weeks ago, police officers getting jumped with a bunch of illegals. Right? They want chaos in this country. Democrats want chaos. Liberals want chaos. They're not for the Constitution. I repeat this every segment. They are not for the Constitution. They don't care about the Constitution. They hate the Constitution. They hate this country with passion. They hate it. They hate it so much that they are willing to destroy it from its core and call everybody racist along the line.
Yeah, look, there's a lot that are coming up here. Now, we did know some of the countries, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Haiti. We knew those were the 4 countries. But what this report identified through the FOIA request is they're actually using the CBP One app for countries well beyond that. And again, the 43 airports was something new. Part of the secrecy is because this is a shell game. They know they're unlawfully using parole. They're trying to hide that from the American people. They know that they're flying them into 43 different airports. They're trying to hide that from the American people as well. And as far as the vulnerabilities, that's the same thing at the southwest border in between the ports of entry, Jan. When we're invaded by millions of illegal aliens, that pulls resources away from law enforcement, national security mission to process these illegal aliens. That's the same thing happening at the airports. Those precious CBP officers are pulled away from their law enforcement, national security mission to process illegal aliens. So there's a whole list of reasons why they're trying to hide this from the American people.
I'm so glad we're showing video right now of airport security, because it can take an hour just for a few hundred Americans to go through TSA security. So when you consider 320,000 migrants who were flown into the U.S. in just a year, how were our airports able to handle the influx? What was the process?
Yeah, so keep in mind, this is another reason why they were able to keep this secret, because you're talking about flights from outside of the country. So this is CBP owns that. TSA doesn't own that. And that's exactly how they were able to keep this from the American people when flights coming in from the United States. It's CBP that does all that.
So basically what he's saying is CBP was in line with all this stuff since they own the customs. They run the customs. They just let them in. I guarantee you, I'll put every penny that I have online that these people are not vetted. 100%, they are not vetted.
Initial processing. But again, just like for Border Patrol agents in between the ports of entry, when you flooded and you've increased that flow by 320,000, it's taken those officers off the front line, away from their normal national security and law enforcement mission to process these illegal aliens. And Jan, another question I have is, what kind of documentation are they requiring of these illegal aliens? That's something else that we don't know.
This is very important, because you mentioned Venezuela. You mentioned countries that we don't really have diplomacy with. How can we even account for who some of these migrants are? Because according to this report, the CBP One Parole program allows migrants who have not been approved for asylum to apply for what's called travel authorization and temporary humanitarian release from these U.S. airports, meaning they can stay in the U.S. for a couple of years without obtaining legal status. But how do we know who anyone is that's entering this country without adjudication?
Okay, look, that's another great question. And we don't know that information, just like they've hid so many other aspects of this program. We don't know. I don't know what type of documentation they're requiring. But you bring up a very good point that we talk about when they illegally enter in between the ports of entry. We don't have diplomatic relationships with these countries. So in my experience, there's no way that we're actually learning anything about these individuals' criminal background before we're letting them board a plane and come in. Another thing, do they have passports? Do they have any other form of documentation? Or are they able to get on this app, fill it out, print it off, and now that's their piece of paper and documentation they can fly with? There's still a lot of unanswered questions.
This is unfreaking believable. Unfreaking believable. They are they are willing to risk innocent lives for votes. That's what it comes down to. Because we don't know who's coming. We don't know. These people are not vetted. There are criminals amongst them. And of course, we're not going to say they're all criminals. Technically, they are for violating U.S. border crossing policy, but they're not being enforced. So, we can't call them criminals. Technically, they are, but we can't call them criminals. But there are hardcore criminals amongst them. And they are willing to sacrifice U.S. citizens. Democrats are willing to sacrifice U.S. citizens, their lives, for votes. Think about that. Democrats willingly sacrifice U.S. citizens' lives for vote. This is exactly what it is.
And that is also part of the vulnerabilities.
Always great talking to you. And there's so many questions about this report again. A lot of this information that just came out last night. Former Acting Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection and Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Mark Morgan. Great seeing you as always.
So there it is, guys. I don't think my comments are harsh. I think I'm very realistic about this whole thing. And I repeat again, Democrats are evil because of what they do and the policies that they push. So if you think otherwise, let me know in the comments. You know, if you think I'm being too harsh or if I'm being unjust in this matter. But I think this is what they do. They are sacrificing U.S. citizen lives for votes. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Peace out.